there, welcome to the Bronx Buzz. This is BronxNet's program where we talk to reporters and writers and editors and journalists and all different people who are writing about our home borough of the Bronx. And in our second segment, we usually do artists or creators of some sort, people putting stuff out. And in our second segment this evening, I am thrilled because we are going to have one of the foremost comic book writers in the Bronx who's got a new product he's going to tell us about. But to get started, we're going to be serious now, and we're going to talk to somebody who's going to talk about congestion pricing. Wrote a fabulous op-ed piece that we're going to review. So it is my pleasure to welcome from the Haitian American Caucus U.S. Incorporated. It is Mr. Samuel Pierre. Nice to have you with us.
Hey, thank you so much, man. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be on Bronx Buzz. We're really excited about it.
Great. Thank you very much. The reason, we talked about writers and journalists and editors. Sam is the executive director of the aforementioned organization, but he wrote what I found to be a fascinating op-ed piece, an editorial in City Limits about congestion pricing. And it really, now listen, let's be clear. Nobody knows what's going on with this thing. It's out of control. And for good reason, because this is a complex city and you're going to start charging people for this. You're going to start charging other people for this. Some people are going to do well. Some people are not going to do well. It's going to impact how people live and how they interact with especially lower than 60th Street in Manhattan. But Mr. Pierre had a point of view that I had not considered. And so why don't you talk to us from the perspective of the Haitian American Caucus and why you were like, wait a minute, I'm not so sure this is what we want to do. So why don't you lay it out for us?
Right. So, Gary. So here it is, right? Our organization. First, let me just tell everyone a little bit about the Haitian American Caucus. We are a community development nonprofit organization that focuses around economic development, health and wellness, and education and learning. We operate similarly to the National Urban League and the NAACP, but our demographic is specifically the Haitian community. We're here in the United States, and we also have a 4-acre campus in the area, in the Quadabouquet area in Haiti, where we have elementary, junior high school, and a high school. So here in the U.S., I serve as the executive director. Domestically, we focus on economic development, workforce development. We want our people to be able to adapt to the American culture so that they can do better for themselves. So in that, we're always interested in the careers and the fields that our members participate in. And a lot of our members are Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, right? 4-hour workers. So a lot of them do DoorDash and Grubhub, and looking for additional ways to bring to make ends meet, right? So because of that, we're very interested in and we're invested in policies that are going to shape our members, right, and how it can impact them, especially from an immigrant community. For the most part, they always come in at the tail end. We get the short end of the stick after the policies is created and
then it comes out, and then it's like, oh, by the way, what do we do about that?
Right. So because we understand policy and I have a background in government and policy. I'm very involved in these things.
So the idea here is to put this on the table now as one of the considerations while the plan is being crafted.
While the plan is being developed, right?
So
we
go ahead.
So we just came in, and to make it short and sweet and simple, we just said, hey, what about the driver? What about the end user? Right? Are you considering them? Are you considering people who need to get Ubers and Lyfts? Right? Are you considering them? Are we considering the communities of color? That's it.
So let's just play it out. So, okay, somebody wants to is a driver, and maybe somebody picks them up in the Bronx, and they say, hey, I want to get to 53rd Street in Manhattan, and then and it's during the workday, and maybe it's an Uber or Lyft driver. And they're just doing their job, and they come in, and all of a sudden they're charged whatever the rate is, another $12, another $20. Do they get exempted? Do they get a discount? Can they pass that along to the driver, to the person who hires it, which
So
also
passenger.
certainly from the Bronx would impact communities of color because then they're going to, instead of a $45 ride, that became a $65 ride, for
$65
example.
ride. Right. Right.
Well,
Which
go ahead.
it discourages everyone. It discourages everyone, right? And it just doesn't feel good. It just doesn't feel
And
good. It discourages people.
do you have numbers? How many let's say members in your Haitian caucus are drivers, or you just know there are a lot?
No, I mean we know that because of the surveys that we take. I'd like to say out of the 3,000 plus members that we have, let's just say for argument's sake, 10% of them are drivers, right?
It's 300.
So let's say 10% of yeah, let's say that's 300 drivers, right?
Wow.
So imagine 300 drivers who are used to this, this income, disposable income. This is the income that's putting
Yeah.
their kids in after
And
school
and and
programs, things
and you
like
know
that.
what? I'm playing this out as we're talking. So then the person who is considering using that service, and maybe they need to do it. In other words, you say, well, then take the train, which is a nice answer. But let's say that there's a health issue involved or some other issue that they absolutely need to take a ride in. They may be less likely to use the service. They get impacted, and certainly the drivers who don't get the rides get impacted. Um,
Right.
how do you solve this? Are you asking for a break? Are you asking for a discount? Are you asking for, because everybody's asking for an exemption?
Right.
I don't know how it's going to work. I mean, I don't know. That's why I said the thing is out there, and that we
Right.
haven't heard a lot of concrete answers or even a real concrete proposal yet.
Right. And I think the way the government works, right? Government would much rather give a, a, a rebate than they would an exemption, right? Because once you start giving exemptions, right, where does it end,
Ah,
right? So government would prefer to tax you and then give you a rebate
so
or
then
abate the taxes later.
do you do
You
you
know,
do
because
do you find that to be an acceptable answer?
um, I don't know.
Boy, I caught you
I'm
there.
just being no. I'm just being realistic, right?
Uh,
So they would the government, the way government works is pay the taxes now, overpay taxes.
uh,
We'll send you a refund. We'll give you a tax
or
refund later.
or that comes annually, or you've got to
Right,
apply for it.
right. They would much prefer. They'll much
Wow,
prefer. Oh, you didn't have your Easy Pass. I'm gonna charge you anyway. You call us and give us the Easy Pass number, and then we'll
wow,
take the ticket off. Right? Because you know what
wow.
that does? Because now there's a lot of people who are going to forget, are going to say, you know what? I don't have time.
Hmm.
Right?
This is, and the other thing that I wonder about, as somebody who has driven in the Bronx and New York City for literally a half a century, I wonder about the technology. They insist that the technology is clean. I mean, our city has, I mean, how many ways to get to 60th Street? How many avenues can you use? I mean, you're going to ride down Fifth Avenue and get to 60th Street. You're going to ride down the FDR. I mean, there's just 100 ways to get in. Are you confident the technology is going to work? I mean, just to
Um,
simply identify the license plates. Maybe I'm very naive. I mean, I'm an old-fashioned guy. I
no,
don't know.
I believe the technology is going to work because look
Really?
at it now. You can drive right now. You can drive and not have your Easy Pass, and they'll find you. They will.
Yes,
They'll
I
find you.
agree with that, but that, let's just say, the Throgs Neck Bridge, you go over the bridge, that's one spot, that they can
Right.
catch everybody. But I just feel like you're gonna have to do every avenue. I mean,
Right.
it's tough.
Well, right. No, it is tough. But
It's a
here's
fun
the
exercise.
it is, but here's the interesting thing. The government is not going to do it. They're going to put an RFP out for a private vendor to figure it out.
Yeah.
So a private
Somebody's gonna
vendor,
make out. Yeah.
someone's gonna right. A private company is going to figure out the technology and then sell it to the government, and then now the
Right.
government will have that technology. You know,
Right. So, are there elected officials or others who are around the table that are listening to the op-ed piece that you wrote or to the advocacy? I'm assuming
Oh
that
yeah.
your organization is not the only organization that considers this. I can't imagine Dominican organizations and other Hispanic organizations would not say, "Hey, we kind of agree with Sam on this."
Right, but here's the other thing. Like I mentioned earlier, traditionally immigrant organizations do not really play a role
Yeah.
significantly in the advocacy of things like this, right? Because you have to come very early to the table to have this conversation, right?
Right.
And then you have to almost be interested, right? And that's not to take away anything. It's just that I just so happen to be very interested in this. So I'm not sure if the other organization executive directors are personally interested, and then that turns into a policy, right? Or it turns into an op-ed, or it turns into
Right.
doing research to figure it out. I'm happy that our organization is able to have that conversation so that others can jump on board as well. But to answer your question really fast, there are elected officials who are like, whoa, 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 let's not rush through this. Let's take our
Well, that's
time
why
and
we
kind of
haven't
really
gotten anywhere. That's why we haven't gotten anywhere yet,
right,
right?
right.
Um, and do you have in your mind, or I guess nobody has in their mind, about the timing on this, or when this is going to roll out, or I'm kind of like thinking about what's your next step. I feel like your next step is to keep elbowing your way in there, put out the op-ed piece, uh, petition elected officials who are going to be around the table. I mean, how do you see your next approach here? Because what you're saying makes total sense to me. The whole thing is complicated to me. So what are your thoughts on
Right. Well, look, the mere fact that you were able to read and it sparked something in you, I think that's what we wanted. That was the whole point, right? To have people who have platforms, such as yourself, Gary, right, who have Bronx Buzz, for other people who have platforms to have us come out and have us have the conversation, so that we can raise awareness around this, so that people can really think it through. I think sometimes I do believe the intention is right? But they also say that the road to hell is paved with good intentions, right?
it? I guess,
So
yeah.
like some people might their intentions might be right, but they don't understand what it's doing to different communities and different folks.
Right.
So my next steps is to keep the conversation alive, to talk to as many people as possible, and to hopefully get to a place where, because of that one little op-ed, people are now opening their
Yeah.
eyes, and a lot of change is happening from there.
Well, it's a fascinating discussion. We've been talking about congestion pricing for years, and the fact is we're a little closer now than we've ever been. But with every conversation I have, there's yet another wrinkle. There's somebody else that says, "Wait a minute, we shouldn't be charged this," or "What's the deal?" Basically, I mean, very, very intricate, very confusing, and I guess at this point. We'll just say thank you to Samuel Pierre for pointing it out, for representing the Haitian American Caucus, and we'll keep in touch about it. I certainly want to hear as much about it as we possibly can.
Thank you so much, Gary. If anyone's interested, I'm sure you can share our website, and our links. They can click on. It's a free membership. Anybody can join. We'd love
Great,
to have you. Thank you so much for
great,
having me.
and also if you haven't read the City Limits piece, do that. Fascinating. And Samuel, thank you for opening our eyes. We appreciate your time. And we're going to take a short break. And as I said in the beginning, when we come back, one of the best comic book creators in the Bronx will join us. Don't go away. All right. Thanks to Mr. Pierre for informing us about an aspect of that we hadn't really considered before. And right now, I'm going to take a visit with one of my friends who's been a neighbor for many years. And he really is one of the foremost comic book writers in the Bronx. He's an innovator and a creator. He's an author, a writing coach, a teacher, an educator, a comic book creator. My pleasure to say hello once again to my buddy Alex Simmons. Nice to have you back on the Bronx Buzz.
Hey there, how you doing there, Gary? Always
We,
good to
we,
see you.
we're doing great, and we're doing even better because you're with us.
Did
Let's
wait
just
a minute, did your costume person talk to my costume person? Because we're both in black.
Yeah, that's well. We were trying to celebrate the commemoration of the incredible comic book work you've done. Let's talk about Blackjack and the creation of it. And now that we're moving to kind of a new era for our favorite
Yes,
comic
we're
book
going from
hero.
retro to digital. Yeah.
Talk about the history of it. When did you create this
Oh
character?
my goodness.
It's a historical character of epic proportions. Let's
Well,
go.
okay,
What do you got?
so first off, Blackjack is a story, an adventure story about an African American soldier of fortune in the 1930s. And I created it back in the 1980s. No, I was not alive in the 1930s, but I
But you
created it
were
back.
alive in the 80s, let's
Yes,
be
I was.
clear.
Yes, there's proof of that. I did it because, for one, as a black man growing up, as a child growing up, watching television and going to movies and things, black characters, especially black men, were 99% of the time portrayed either as domestics, servants, butlers, that sort of thing, or we were seen in any of the Tarzan movies running around being afraid of the animals, being afraid of the white guy in a
Oh,
loincloth,
right,
but
right, right,
no
right.
heroic figures, none. And as a kid, we had Batman, we had cowboys, we had all these characters that you were supposed to look up to as heroic figures. And of course, as a kid, I wanted to be that. I wanted to have adventures and save lives and all that kind of stuff. But again, no one looked like me doing that. And
You
so
didn't
by the
see you wanted,
no,
I remember wearing a Superman cape and all that, but and I guess it was easier for me to see myself in there.
absolutely.
You didn't quite see yourself in
I
that.
didn't absolutely did not see
That's it.
anything like
Yeah.
that until maybe the 60s, late 60s, right? When things started to happen and change because of the civil rights movement. But again, just understanding that a good portion of my childhood and my teen years, zip. So when I became a professional writer and a performer, one of the things I tried to do was create characters that took on more of a representation, a better representation of Black people, and in the various jobs and career paths and circumstances that we'd experienced throughout the decades. And so when I got to create this character, I wanted to create a heroic figure. I wanted to do them in the past because, again, one of the things that had happened over the years was I'd learned all the things Black people had done in the past. Right.
Ah.
We had been soldiers in two wars, right? In particular, World War One and World War Two, and yet there was almost no remarks about it whatsoever until. And so I started to look at the explorers, the inventors, the scientists, and things that that had been of color. And I started to say, there's got to be a way to start bringing some of that information forward. And I did it by doing a storyline, an adventure storyline, so that played to the kid in me,
Hmm.
but an adventure storyline where he would either meet some of these characters or I could at least reference some of these characters. And not just blacks or Africans or African Americans, but also Middle Eastern, Asian, and so because again, a lot of the material that had been done in the 30s, 40s, and 50s usually took cultures and reduced them to stereotypes. We had the Chinese characters were either evil or domestics. Spanish characters, and usually the only ones you saw were Mexicans, were either evil or poor. It was very simplistic stereotypes that were done.
And so you created this character, and how prolific were you in developing it and turning it out? I mean,
Initially,
was it like a monthly, a weekly
well,
when it
no,
started?
it was not because it was just me doing the writing, and then I had to bring in artists and people like that. So I didn't have a huge staff. So it was predominantly me doing the writing, Joe Bennett, who's a Brazilian artist, doing the illustrations, and we did it like I think I did. We did the first three issues in 4 months, 4.5 months. With
And how did it work? Were young people receptive to it? Did you feel
oh
like it
well,
had the
it was
effect you
tremendous.
wanted to have it?
It was tremendous in that I did it out of faith. When we got it out there, we got a lot of, from distributors and things like that. We got a lot of pushback except from Diamond and a couple of the larger ones. But from the smaller ones, we got pushback. Oh, this doesn't have a market where we sell. This won't fly where we sell. This won't go over.
Ay,
And it
ay,
was the
ay,
exact
ay, ay.
opposite. It was the exact opposite. We were getting fan mail from Europe, from Mexico, from obvious points in the United States.
So as you've developed your own skills as a writer, as a teacher, I mean, you teach all kinds of different aspects of what goes into comic books. I mean, you and I have talked about you traveling literally the world to talk about
Yeah,
comic books and
comics
teach.
and creative writing and all of that. Yeah.
Exactly. So, as this has developed, it was time at some point maybe to do something different with it,
Well,
where expanding the
we did a
concept.
number of comics and graphic novels of this character, and then we went to short stories and novellas, and that was I did some writing with my partner, my buddy Chris Ryan, and actually it's now floating around LA, on the verge of beginning to commence to start to eventually, we hope very soon, find some life there as well in another media form. And meanwhile, I have decided, some months ago, I decided that the audiobook world would be another good place for this, because
Uh-huh.
some of the stories, yes, some of the stories are graphic novels rather, but
Right.
others are short stories and novellas, and those can be um, recorded and presented as audiobooks. So we took
As
one of the
a
books to do
well, let
that.
me ask you this. As a creator, you visualized this character for comic books, and
Hmm.
you created, each scene was a different image,
Like
et
making a
cetera, et
film.
cetera.
Yeah,
That's
right.
right. And what was it like to then say, "Well, wait a minute, I'm cutting out the visual, and now it's only gonna be audio." Did you like the stories? Was it harder to tell the stories? Was it
No,
easier?
it was not harder. It was different. I'd been a writer of short stories and novels and things like that prior to doing comics. So to me, it was just going back to a different medium or shifting to another medium. I also do screenplays, so I mean, I can write a screenplay, I can write a comic book, I can write a novel or short story. It's just deciding, okay, where am I this week,
Right.
and adjusting your thinking, and so that your methodology fits that particular
Do
media.
is this, audiobook, now designed for people to look at the visuals while they're doing it, or is it
No,
one of
no,
these
it's
like a
just straight.
podcast
It's
you can sit on the
it's
subway and
Yeah,
just
you drive in your
wow.
car, sit with your earbuds in, that sort of thing, and enjoy some of the adventures. And this is not the first one, actually. I did one a few years back as a Halloween tribute. I took one of the short stories where he deals with the supernatural, and I'd done an audiobook reading of that. So this is now the first time I am fully coming out with a full-on story to do and present to the marketplace as an
What
audiobook.
one story to start, or do you, in your mind, have you're ready to roll them
Two
out,
stories,
or
2 stories,
2 stories?
2 stories to
And
start, yeah.
when will it be available? I
It
thought it was
will
October 15th, right?
Yes, it's this coming weekend.
Right.
It'll be
We
on the
should say
market.
we're recording this before that,
That's right.
so it
Oh,
will
that's
air
true. Yes, that's true.
actually after it. But, let's just be clear. And
Yes.
then if people say, "Well, wait a minute, I'd like to hear." First of all, do you do the narration? You have a good
Yes,
voice.
yes.
Wow,
I've done voiceover work for years, so yes, I figured,
wow.
let me keep it simple. It's not about ego, it's about, removing obstructions so I can get things done.
Yeah, and also if listen, there's nothing wrong with hiring an actor or hiring somebody's
No.
voice, but you know what you want to put out. Just out of curiosity, because people listen to podcasts and all that. How long? I mean, is it long? Can you do it in one sitting?
Yeah, it de
Are
it
there
depends on the
chapters?
it depends on the person. There are chapters, and it's a short story. It's one of two stories it's a book that we did called Trial by Fire, Trial by Ice, and the Trial by Fire takes place around the 1936 Olympics in Germany, and Trial by Ice takes place in Russia. Literally, story wise, a few weeks after the first story. So it's two stories in one in the book, and the printed book is available on Amazon. So now the audiobook will be available that way, but we're going to start out with on the Blackjack website first. just
You
to
know,
sort of roll it out.
I want to ask you this because I have felt when we've had so many conversations on the air and off the air about the work that you do and creating Blackjack to start, and you have articulated the reasons for it. Are you somewhat thinking to yourself, "Gee whiz, with the new superheroes that are in the movies now of black figures," you're saying, "Hey, I did that all the way back." I mean, this is really kind of the descendant, right, to
Well,
the
yeah,
modern movies.
it's I don't know that I can say it that way because
Oh, take the credit, Alex.
well, no, yeah, I take credit where it's definitely due,
Oh,
but
okay, fair
what
enough.
I will say here is that there's a long history of artists, black and white, trying to get black characters in the comic books. And it started in the 60s. And well, actually, it started before that, but I'm just saying in terms of the comic book era with Marvel and DC, that started in the 60s. And I'm just happy to be a part of that vanguard and that crusade, if you will. And yes, I can honestly say because I've been told this that there are a number of writers and artists currently doing black hero figures in comics who were inspired by the work I did with Blackjack.
Okay,
All right,
listen,
so I
you
can
know
say
me,
that, but yeah,
you're in my camp, and I'm gonna give you the credit.
thank you.
Do you at this point? I mean, I realize you're focused on the audiobook and maybe audiobooks, and maybe there will be more at some point. Do you think of the other next steps, or is it really keep doing what you're doing,
Well,
teaching
like I
kids,
said,
using comic books to expand their minds and do all the great things that it can do for a young person?
I like to look at my life this way. I like to look at the things that I can actually affect. Like I said, right
Mm.
now Blackjack's under consideration for Los Angeles and animation and all that. And I can't do anything more to make that happen other than what I've done and the people that are working on that. Now, if we get a deal, we get a deal. But I can turn out these stories myself. I can work with people like Chris Ryan and others to turn out more Blackjack stories as printed books and graphic novels and also as audiobooks. So yes, that is what I can control. Subsequently, that is a part of what I will do. I also teach screenwriting at the New York Film Academy. And then, as you said, I globetrot both physically and virtually to teach creative writing and creative arts to people in different countries and at different age ranges.
What
That's
what
something I can do.
what you have done, and again, we've talked about this. In fact, I remember we did an edition of Bronx Talk when we brought the kids in to draw and
Yeah, that's
create.
right.
Remember that?
Yeah,
It was, several years ago. But what you have done is use this art form and used it to for the best reasons to expand kids' minds, let them be creative in and of themselves, let them write their own stories,
exactly.
and
And let them represent themselves too. I mean, sometimes we're not
just like you did.
seeing the proper representation of
Got it.
our culture, our race, whatever. So, hey, do it yourself.
We got to get running. My buddy Alex Simmons, find him at simmonshereinnow.com. And we appreciate your time. We appreciate your
Thank you.
work.
Thank you for
And
having me here.
I would tell you to keep going. You will. You don't
Yes,
even need me to
absolutely.
say
And you
that.
do likewise.
All right. All right, that should do it for the Bronx Buzz. Thanks so much to Alex. He's just great, and he's always producing stuff that means something. Also, in the first segment, thanks to Sam Pierre for giving us an unusual point of view about congestion pricing. And you know what happens next? That's right. We'll see you next week. Good night.